If you were arrested for domestic violence, especially if this was your very first arrest, maybe you've never even had a traffic ticket before, then this video is for you because I'm going to be sharing with you 7 cheat codes to increasing the likelihood that your case will be dropped, that nothing will be filed against you. My name is Veronica. I'm a domestic violence defense attorney here in California, and I help people put their cases behind them so that they can enjoy their lives and their freedom. I'm also the creator of a course called Defeat the DVRO, in which I teach you from start to finish how to represent yourself and win at your restraining order hearing. So if that is something you're dealing with in addition to being arrested, you can get your free first class in how to represent yourself via the link down below. Okay, so let's jump right in. The 7 cheat codes to increasing the likelihood that your case will be dropped before court. Now, when you get arrested for domestic violence, especially if it is your first offense, a lot of times the cops will tell you, hey, don't worry about this. The case is gonna be dropped before court, no problem. Maybe you hear from a family member or friend who went through this as well and tells you, hey, you know what, don't worry about that case. It's just gonna be dropped before court. How the process works is this. You get arrested, the cops generate a police report, right? The police report is going to say that they had good reasons to arrest you. They then send that police report over to the prosecutor's office, the DA's office, and the DA has to look at this police report and whatever else is in the file and decide whether or not they're going to file charges against you. So yes, sometimes they decide no, but sometimes, a lot of times actually, they will decide yes. And so what I'm talking about here are 7 cheat codes, like things I have my clients do, things that I use as a domestic violence defense attorney to get these cases dropped before court, to increase the likelihood that they will end up in the pile of the cases that are not going to be filed. I don't know about you, but especially if my future was on the line, I would not want to leave it to chance. Because here's the thing, before court, when the prosecutor's office is looking at the files and deciding, all right, who should we file against? Who should we file a felony against? Who should we file a misdemeanor against? Who should we just let go? Let them off with a warning, basically. The person who's looking at those files, they are a prosecutor, but their mindset, their job at that point is not prosecute everybody on the pile. It is figure out which ones we do want to prosecute. If they put you in the prosecute pile, now the prosecutor assigned to your case, usually a different person, they are assigned to prosecute you, which is bad. You want to avoid that as much as possible. And that is exactly what these cheat codes help with. Number 1, take online domestic violence classes. Nobody likes this advice, I know, because it sounds like if you have to take a class to learn how to not commit domestic violence, you are guilty, right? So it seems almost like it's an admission of guilt. That is not how it is seen by prosecutors and judges. Instead, what it is seen as is you are proactive. You are taking this seriously. You are scared, you know what-less, because you got arrested, and this is never going to happen again. What the DA's office and what judges are scared of, that they will let the case go, they will not file charges against you, and then you will go and kill the alleged victim. That's a nightmare scenario, right? That is a career ender. If they can say that in the file wasn't just this police report that obviously is not going to make you look good, but was also proof that you were taking these domestic violence classes, that you were proactive, that they had good reasons to make the decision that they did, that it wasn't just arbitrary or that they didn't care. And you will see that a lot of these hacks are designed with that in mind. You just need to tip the scales in your favor. You need to make them see that this is not one where you are a problem, and this is one where you are not just going to use the public defender and take the very first offer that they give you. You are going to fight this, so they would need to spend a lot of resources to prosecute you. Take online domestic violence classes. It is not an admission of guilt. I promise you that. As an attorney, I don't promise very many things, but I do promise that. Which one to take? I will give you the one that I send my clients to in the description box below. It is one that is accepted by prosecutors. They don't have any problems with. Some of them, I know that the prosecution says he just probably turned it on his phone and didn't actually watch it. This one actually, it does make you take a quiz at the end. It's not very hard, but it does provide that check, which is really important with the prosecution, because if there's a class out there where it's basically like watching this video, you could just put me on mute and go watch the game or whatever, that is not going to be very credible to them. Number 2, enroll in some sort of therapy. This can be in-person therapy, it can be online therapy. If you have health insurance, obviously you can go through them, but what you need to do is get enrolled extremely quickly. So if you are going to look for the very best therapist that you can possibly find, and there's a long waiting list for it, or you're having trouble getting on their schedule, or you're calling people and not getting a call back, that's going to take too long. You need to do all of this that I'm talking about as soon as possible, because you don't know when the prosecution is going to review the file. Sometimes they review it the day of court. Sometimes I show up with my client and they still haven't made a decision as to whether or not they're going to file because they haven't even looked at the file. Other times they file very quickly after the arrest, so you need to do all this as quickly as you can. Therefore, I recommend that unless you already have a therapist, or unless you find that it's not going to be a problem for you to get into in-person therapy, enroll in online therapy. You can look for, if you actually want an in-person therapist, if you feel like that would be helpful for you, especially given the stress of this situation, go ahead and look for them. But online therapy is accepted by prosecutors, and so I would recommend that you do that. And the same as number one, this is not an admission that you need psychological help. This is not pleading insanity. It's nothing like that. It is showing that you are extremely proactive, and now it gives the prosecutor a way to say, look, this is someone who is under the supervision of a professional. If this person goes and does something crazy and violent, it's really more on the professional than it is on me. I'm just a prosecutor. It's sad, but it's true. The main DAs are elected officials. It's very political, even within their offices. And so you want to make sure that you make it easy for them to just put your file on the do not file pile. Number three, if the alleged victim is on your side, have them write a letter and have them get it notarized unless the two of you are married and this truly was a misunderstanding and there was no malfeasance really on either of your parts. I highly recommend getting it notarized in case they change their mind. What should the letter say? Okay, if you did something that arguably makes you guilty, and you don't know, by the way, if you are guilty. Some people, they will tell me what happened. They think that they're guilty. They're confessing to me, right? But actually, I hear the story and I'm like, wait, it sounds like you were the victim. You acted in self-defense. Okay, you pushed them, but they attacked you first, right? But other people will tell me, you know what, I was totally innocent. All I did was pull her phone out of her hands. That is actually technically battery. But if nothing like that happened, and you do need an attorney's advice for this, if nothing like that happened, then they can describe the incident. If something happened between the two of you that arguably looks bad for you, they can still write a letter. The letter's content should just be about their relationship, that they love you, that the two of you have been together for a long time. Basically, the message that you want from this letter is that this was a one-off. This was a really bad night where, for whatever reason, things got bad. Maybe the two of you were just yelling and a neighbor called the cops and the cops came and just said, we have to arrest one of you, and they did. Okay, the message that the DA needs to see is that this will not happen again. This is not a horrible, abusive, wife beating or husband beating type of relationship at all. This was just a crazy time and the cops came and didn't do much investigation and just arrested one of you. If they don't want to write a letter, do not have them write a letter. If they don't want to write a letter, whatever they're going to write in the letter is not going to be good, so just drop it. And this letter doesn't mean, and I'm sure you know this if you are researching as you are here, it doesn't mean that the prosecution is going to drop it, but it does certainly help. It's another thing that they can add to their file. And it shows them also that the number one witness that they would want if the case were to go to jury trial, if they were to prosecute this thing, is not going to be cooperative. So it's not 100%, but it is certainly helpful. Number four, if the alleged victim is on your side, then in addition to individual therapy, I really recommend going to couples counseling. DAs love that because you guys know that it was bad that the police got called for whatever reason, even if there wasn't domestic violence. It's that happened, and the two of you are working through this relationship. And again, don't make them, if they don't want to go, then don't make them go. But if they are open to it, then by all means, go to couples counseling. You can also do this online. You can use the same link for individual therapy. If you don't have a couples counselor in mind, at least get enrolled, start going once a week or so. And then if you do find it helpful, and of course you can always find an in-person couples therapy if you want, just not if it's going to take a long time to do. Number five, character letters. You need character letters from your family members and friends. These are also called letters of recommendation sometimes. You need them to talk about how you are a good guy, how you are a nice person, whatever good things they can say about you. You want them to paint the picture of a good person. And for domestic violence in particular, it's different than other areas of criminal defense. When I used to handle gang cases and I was getting letters of recommendation for those clients, What I was looking for, especially if there was bad evidence against my client, which there is in a lot of those cases, is if he had a job, I want like a letter from his supervisor talking about what a hard worker he is. I want to paint the picture that he is more than just a gang member. For domestic violence cases, when it's the first time you've ever been arrested, of course you have a job or maybe you're a student, we're not really looking for that. You're already a normal, hardworking person. What we are looking for instead is that you're a nice person, that you're not a violent person. That is what we want to see in these letters. If they can give examples of how they've known you, I've had people who knew my client in college write about how they would break up fights sometimes at bars. Have them really paint a picture. Because what I want, ideally, are some stories. Something that really paints a picture of you as a person so that the DA can see, look, this person has a lot of people in his life that have maybe been in his life or her life for a long time. They know this person and they believe that this person is not violent. Number 6, do not answer calls from unknown numbers until your court date has occurred. So you and or the alleged victim may get a call from a detective or law enforcement. You don't want to be put on the spot by answering the phone. If you are the defendant or potential defendant, if it's before your first court date, you do not want to be talking to a detective. You don't want to give more statements because generally when they're making those calls, they want to bolster the police report. So they're continuing the investigation. It definitely doesn't help when you or the alleged victim are answering those phone calls, describing what happened, maybe you did before too, and now there are potential inconsistent statements. Sometimes alleged victims who want the cases dropped think that it will be helpful if they really impress upon the detective that they never wanted you to get arrested, they never wanted this case to happen in the first place. Usually how that is viewed by detectives, by DAs, is that you, and this could apply if the alleged victim is a man or a woman, that you have battered wife syndrome, that you were under the thumb of the abuser, and so you told the truth when the cops came out, or you sought help by calling 911, even if you didn't say anything to the cops once they came out as the alleged victim. But now you're either being pressured or, because of financial considerations, even because of love, you've decided to forgive them. So that does not help, and that can actually potentially hurt. Number 7, hire an attorney as soon as possible. I know that this sounds self-serving because I am an attorney, and I honestly feel like those late night infomercials I would see as a kid, but it doesn't have to be me. I know that people watching YouTube here, I've had people contact me from Australia, from as far away as possible, people who could not possibly hire me. I'm not saying you have to hire me. Hire an attorney who understands this process, who knows about this process, who doesn't say, now we're just going to wait for the first court date, which a lot of criminal defense attorneys who do not focus their practices on domestic violence cases will do, because for murder cases, gang cases, it would be fruitless to try to contact the DA before court because usually it's like 100% they're going to file. Attorneys who handle mainly really serious cases, usually your client's already in jail and the first court date is going to be like the next business day. So there's no process that you do to try to get everything dropped before court. You don't send your client to therapy. You don't do anything like that. So make sure that you hire someone who actually knows about this process and focuses on domestic violence cases. I hope you found this video helpful. If you do have a case in California that you need help with, feel free to give me a call. You can find my number down below. You can also book a consultation there. If you do have a question or a topic for a video, do me a favor and leave it in a comment. I'm always happy to have new ideas and happy to help people and answer their questions. And if you did find this video helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the bell, and follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook.